You see the bandits flee into the cave with the hostages. You must follow them in if you want to free the hostages and complete the mission that the king gave you. How do you want to proceed? Y'all want to go check out that haunted tower that the hermit was talking about?
Oh yeah, that sounds fun.
I guess, well, I mean, uh, give me a minute. I prepared for the cave. Have you ever had your players take a complete left turn and make all the prep you did useless? Want to make prep easier? Perhaps a simpler setup will be more in line with your players. Let's talk about one-page dungeons. A one-page dungeon is a self-contained D&D adventure condensed onto a single page. It essentially crams all the information a dungeon master needs to run a short, exciting adventure into one easily digestible format. We all know that large amounts of prep seem to lead to a lot of prep that doesn't get used. We as dungeon masters end up ad-libbing a large amount of the adventure frequently anyway. One-page dungeons give us a simple but clear map of the dungeon layout, depicting rooms, corridors, and interesting features. It includes descriptions of the creatures or NPCs the players will encounter in each area, along with their motivations and behaviors. It also details any traps or puzzles players might face, including difficulty levels and how to overcome them, as well as a list of potential treasures players can find as rewards, adding replayability and motivation. It puts this all on a single page, but it doesn't overwhelm with details. It leaves it to the dungeon master to expand on the rooms and adjudicate what happens. One-page dungeons are great for impromptu sessions, for when friends decide to get together and play at a moment's notice. The simplicity of the setup makes it easy to get started quickly without having to spend hours prepping. You can find many online at links in the description, or have a bunch ready to go that you have already created or downloaded. You may even be able to use one of these dungeons to spark a new campaign using something that happens in the adventure. Some of my most memorable villains came about through interactions the players had with some NPC that was created on the fly in one of these dungeons.
Where can I find one-page dungeons?
I will add links in the description of this video, but a couple that I like are elventower.com and Whatabow. Whatabow? Something like that. You can also just Google one-page dungeons and look at the images. There are a ton there also.
Sweet!
Running a one-page dungeon can be done in a couple of ways. Most of them online do not include which specific monsters are in each room. This is by design. By doing this, the dungeon master can add creatures that are appropriate to the party's level. You could use the same dungeon for a level 3 party as you would for a level 15 party by simply adding different creatures to the encounters. Any traps and puzzles can have DCs that will be the right challenge level for the parties. When I create my own one-page dungeons, I usually include the monsters. I don't put the stat blocks, but I include the CRs in the names. This helps me to have an idea of what kind of creatures will be there, and I can make adjustments as necessary. The strength of these one-page dungeons is that they can easily be plugged into any campaign. They should all have a small blurb talking about the theme of the dungeon, and the dungeon master can use this information to create plot hooks. Now let's take a look at a one-page dungeon I've created. There will be a link to the dungeon in the description that takes you to my Patreon. There isn't a lot there right now, but I will be adding new layers and new content to it shortly. But go ahead and go out there now so that when I do add new levels, you'll be ready. I created the map using Dungeon Scrawl, for which there is a link in the description. This is called the Lost Shrine of the Oracle, and it is a simple little dungeon that I created quickly for this video. It has 6 rooms and includes a simple plot hook and simple room descriptions. You can add to anything in the one-page dungeon simply by adding rooms, adding monsters, adding NPCs, or anything else that you want. Room 1, the entrance, has a giant spider in it. You can check out the video linked above for information on how to use the environment to make better spider encounters. Room 2 is where the spirit of the Oracle still exists, and players can get an answer to one question from her. This could be a plot hook in itself if there is something the players need to know. Rooms 3 and 4 at the back of the dungeon have shadows and skeletons respectively. Room 5 is a treasure room with a trick in it, and room 6 is an ettercap holding a hostage. By changing the creatures from low CR monsters to high CR monsters, you can change the challenge rating of the dungeon pretty easily. Maybe the shadows are ghosts, or the giant spider is a drider. Creating one-page dungeons is pretty simple. You need a map, probably a smaller one so all the information can fit on a page, but I have seen larger ones as well. Next, you come up with a theme of the dungeon. I also have a link above to a video about designing the adventure. Once you have the theme of the dungeon decided, you can now start building it room by room. I have yet another link to creating 5-room dungeons above. That is the basic format that I used to create this dungeon. Start simple and small and build complexity gradually. Remember that this is supposed to be simple so it can be run quickly without too much prep and adjusted easily. Check out this dungeon in my Patreon link in the description below. And subscribe to the channel to be notified when I put up more Dungeons and Dragons content. Share this with a friend that may be interested in this. And remember to keep on hacking the dungeon.